Welcome back, viewers. You're watching the Savera and I'm Shefali. A steep 50% tariff on goods exported from India to the United States have officially come in effect from today. According to the Global Trade Research Initiative, the move is expected to significantly impact India's export basket, putting nearly 5.4 lakh crore worth of trade at risk. The GTRI estimates that the imposition of these tariffs could cause India's exports to the US to shrink from 7.5 lakh crore rupee to just 4.3 lakh crore by April 2027. Nearly two-thirds, that's 66% of India's shipment to the US will be hit by the new duties. Key product categories such as textiles, gems and jewelry, seafood, furniture and automotive parts are likely to become sustainably more expensive in the American market. Analysts fear this could lead to a demand decline up to 70%, forcing US buyers to shift towards cheaper suppliers such as China, Vietnam and Mexico. This will weaken the competitive edge of Indian companies and reduce their share in the world's largest consumer market. Here's sector-wise breakdown of the likely impact. Machinery and auto parts. Now, India exported engineering goods worth 1.68 lakh crore rupee to the US in 2024, including machinery, automotive, parts and steel products. The US market accounts for 32% of Indian auto parts export. The higher duty could wipe out 30,000 crore rupee worth of trade annually, particularly affecting small and medium enterprises which provide 40% of India's engineering exports. Thousands of jobs are at risk. India is expected to redirect focus to Europe and Asian market while lobbying for support measures such as an expanded PLI scheme to reduce production costs. Electronics. India exported electronics worth 1.23 lakh crore rupee to the US last year, with iPhones leading this segment. While electronics are temporarily exempt, the Trump administration has hinted at invoking Section 232 of the US Trade Expansion Act, which allows tariff on grounds of national security. If applied, a 50% duty on smartphones and semiconductors could disrupt India's position as Apple's largest iPhone supplier. Companies may consider shifting production to countries outside India to avoid higher tariffs. Pharmaceuticals. India exported medicines worth Rs 92,000 crore rupee to the US in 2024, contributing nearly 40% of American generic drug imports. Currently exempt from tariff, the sector faces the threat of steep hikes, up to 150% within 18 months and 250% later. If implemented, drug prices could be more than double, severely impacting Indian giants such as Sun Pharma, Cipla, Lupin and Dr. Reddy's. India may be forced to strike a trade deal with US or diversify export towards Europe and Latin America. Gems and jewelry. India exported jewelry worth 87,000 crore rupee to the US in 2024, making up to 44.5% of America's diamond imports. The new 50% tariff could cut exports from 15 to 30% and threaten artisan jobs. The counter is Indian jewelers are exploring alternative production hubs in Dubai and Mexico, while duties are far lower at 10% and 25% respectively. Textiles. With exports worth 87,000 crore rupee to the US in 2024, textiles are one of the most vulnerable sectors. Higher tariffs are likely to increase the price of Indian garments by half, leading to a potential 25% drop in demand. India's share of US textile imports could shrink from 33% to around 20%. The industry is pushing the government to remove the 11% duty on raw cotton and is turning to alternate markets in the EU, UK and UAE. Seafood. India exported seafood worth 60,000 crore rupee in 2024, of which 40% went to the US. The new tariff placed nearly 24,000 crore rupee off the trade at risk. With competing countries such as Ecuador 10% tariff, Indonesia 19% tariff and Vietnam 20% tariff facing lower duties, Indian seafoods may lose its competitiveness. The sector, which employs around 2 crore people, could suffer major setback unless India expands its reach into China and Europe. Why has the US imposed the tariff? A tariff is a duty, an import duty, leveled by a country on goods purchased from abroad. US President Donald Trump has long argued that India imposes disproportionately high tariffs on American goods while enjoying easier access to the US market. Under his reciprocal tariff policy, Washington has now raised import duties on Indian goods to level the playing field. Additionally, Trump has expressed dissatisfaction over India's continued oil and defense purchase from Russia, which further triggered an additional 25% duty, taking the total tariff burden of 50%. Status of the Indian-US trade deal. Now, India and the US have been negotiating a trade agreement for years. A sixth round of discussions scheduled for 25 August was postponed, while both sides are aiming for a breakthrough by September or October. Disagreements persist, particularly over sensitive issues like agriculture, genetically modified crops, and dairy market access. Until then, Indian exporters are bracing for a prolonged phase of uncertainty, job losses, and shrinking market shares in the United States. That's all for now in this update. Stay tuned to the Savera, download the app and follow us on various social media platforms.